As President Obama struggles to contain the fallout from the Palestinian statehood bid, reports have emerged which claim he secretly approved the transfer of 55 high-tech bunker-buster bombs to Israel. Now, it apparently happened months after he took office, even though it had earlier been rejected by President Bush, who feared Israel could sell the technology to China. Interesting story. Ted Rell's on the line to talk about that. He's a political satirist and columnist. He's joining us on the lines from New Orleans. Thanks ever so much, Ted, for being on RT International. I mean, what did the US stand to gain from this deal?
Obviously, it's just part of the continuing relationship between the United States and Israel, which is probably the #1 recipient of what is called U.S. foreign aid, which mostly takes the form of military sales. This particular sale originated in 2005 when the Bush administration initially approved it, but it had been on hold throughout the Bush years, and it was only in the early years of the Obama administration, in the first few months, that the actual shipment was approved. So this has been in the works, but it might not have ever occurred under Bush.
Of course, the other angle to this, I guess, Ted, there's been speculation for a while, hasn't it, that Israel was amassing weapons like these, possibly to use against Iran. I mean, how much consideration would the US have given to these bombs being used for that purpose, maybe?
Well, they probably wouldn't be useful to Israel for any other purpose. The bunker buster is a 5,000-pound bomb that is only used in order to penetrate deep fortified positions. So, for instance, they were used quite extensively during the Battle of Tora Bora in the closing days of the initial U.S. invasion of Afghanistan and Western Pakistan in 2001, 2002. And now the same exact bombs what kind of application could they possibly have for an Israel seeking to defend its borders from a potentially hostile Syria, for example? Not very many. Syria doesn't have those kind of deeply fortified positions, but Iran does keep is said to keep its nuclear research facilities deep underground, and the only way to really access them would be using exactly this sort of weapon. So it's not speculation to ask whether Iran would be interested in would care about this transaction. This is very much an escalation of the conflict between Israel and Iran.
The Bush administration, as I mentioned just now, in its day apparently didn't trust Israel enough to not sell this technology to China. If that was the case then, what's so different now?
Well, what's so different now is that the Obama administration seems, like so many Democratic administrations, to be willing to bend over backwards to look even more militaristic than its Republican counterparts and predecessors. Under President Obama, we've seen an escalation of a secret war in Somalia and Yemen. We've also seen a new war in Libya, as we know, and that's still ongoing. The NATO mission continues, and so overall, the Democrats are always worried about being attacked by the right during presidential elections as weak on national defense. They tend to go overboard, going the opposite extreme, and it never does them any good. They still get attacked as being weak on national defense anyway.
Of course, Ted, meshing all this in as well with the Palestinian bid for statehood, I mean, there was a clear rift between Israel and the US when Obama urged Israel to make concessions to the Palestinians back in May. Then, of course, also threatening a statehood veto right now, while, as we hear in this story, apparently giving military support to the other side. A lot of people saying, how far will Washington go to do Israel's bidding, aren't they?
Well, so far, it seems that there's very few limits that the United States is willing to cross in order to support Israel at any cost. You have to almost wonder how it is that the tail wags the dog in this respect. Israel is a tiny nation the size of New Jersey, and it has no oil wealth. It has barely a strategic position, and yet it's telling the world's sole remaining superpower what to do. And it just goes on and on. I mean, the UN veto is going to be a tremendous embarrassment for a United States that claims to support equal rights and self-determination in the Middle East. How can you possibly support statehood for the Libyan rebels and not statehood for Palestine that's been waiting at least 20 years?
We'll keep you very, very busy with your comments and your illustrations as well. Ted Rell, political satirist, columnist and author, thanks for being on RT.
Thank you, Kevin.